The corridor outside the security office smelled of disinfectant and old paint, the kind of place where time slowed and authority spoke in clipped tones. She stood calmly under the flickering fluorescent light, hands relaxed at her sides, eyes forward. To anyone watching, she looked like a civilian contractor who'd wandered somewhere she didn't belong, quiet, unremarkable, compliant. That was exactly the point. The head of security paced in front of her, boots striking the floor with rehearsed confidence. "You were found inside a restricted wing," he said, tapping a clipboard. "No badge, no escort, that's a serious violation." She nodded once. Understood. Her calm irritated him. He expected fear, excuses, maybe tears. Instead, he got silence. He leaned closer, lowering his voice as if power lived there. "We'll conduct a full search. Strip search, if necessary." The room went still. A junior guard glanced up, uncertain, but said nothing. Orders were orders. The head of security smirked, convinced he'd finally cracked the situation wide open. "Before you proceed," she said evenly, "I'd like you to log this interaction." He laughed. "You don't get to make requests." She met his eyes for the first time. There was no challenge in her gaze, just a depth that suggested she was measuring him, not the other way around. He waved to the guards. "Take her inside." The door opened. Inside, cameras hummed softly. A protocol binder sat untouched on the desk, its tabs frayed from years of neglect. She stepped forward without resistance, noting every detail. Camera angles, exits, the names stitched on uniforms. The guards were trained, but not well trained. Confident, but careless. A radio crackled on the desk. "Security lead, confirm ID check on detained individual." He grabbed it. Negative ID. Proceeding with enhanced search. There was a pause. Copy. Upload biometric scan first. The lead frowned. "We don't need. Protocol requires it," the voice insisted. Annoyed, he motioned for the scanner. A guard pressed it to her wrist. The device chirped once, then again, longer this time. A red light flashed. The room's temperature seemed to drop. "Try again," the lead snapped. The scanner beeped, then emitted a sharp tone. Text scrolled rapidly across the small screen. The guard's face drained of color. "Sir, it's locked. Clearance override required." "By who?" the lead demanded. The radio crackled again, louder now. "Security lead, stand by. Command has flagged the biometric." The door behind them opened without a knock. A senior officer entered, eyes fixed on the woman in the center of the room. He stopped short, heels clicking together in a reflex that came from years of discipline. "Admiral," he said, voice tight. Silence hit like a wave. She straightened, the disguise falling away not in clothing, but in presence. "At ease," she said quietly. This was an inspection. The head of security froze, color rushing from his face. "Admiral." She raised a hand. "We'll discuss your procedures, and your judgment, later." The cameras kept humming, recording everything, exactly as she'd planned. The interrogation room was small, sterile, and unnervingly quiet. A single overhead light flickered faintly, casting harsh shadows across the gray walls. She sat in the center of the room, hands folded on her lap, posture straight, calm, like a statue carved of steel. Outside, the muffled chatter of security radios continued, punctuated by the occasional metallic clank of keys and doors. The lead guard entered, his expression a mixture of irritation and nervous pride. "We need full compliance. Any resistance in this will get unpleasant," he said, leaning against the table. His voice was firm, rehearsed, meant to dominate. He didn't notice how small his confident gestures looked in the space with her sitting there, entirely unflinching. She tilted her head slightly, a faint, unreadable smile playing on her lips. "I've done nothing to resist," she said evenly. "I will cooperate within the bounds of your regulations." The guard waved at the others. "Take her into the secure area. Strip search required. No exceptions." As they moved toward her, she rose slowly, letting every movement seem natural, almost hesitant. The guards followed the script, not suspecting the quiet strength behind her calm. They led her down the narrow hallway toward the security wing, and she noted the cameras, the weak points in the walls, the escape routes, every detail stored silently in her mind. Inside the secure area, the guards began their preparations. One adjusted the restraints, another checked the procedural binder, muttering to himself about chain of command and protocol violations. She observed silently, her mind calculating and predicting every step they would take. Then came the scanner. A guard held the device to her wrist. A single beep sounded, then a second, then a rapid, alarming series of tones that made every head in the room snap toward the screen. Her ID clearance, her undercover credentials, all flashed in bold letters across the monitor. Navy SEAL Admiral, top clearance level. The room froze. The guards exchanged nervous glances. The lead stepped forward, face pale. This must be a mistake, he stammered. Before anyone could react further, she removed her jacket, letting the insignia become visible under the uniform shirt. The room's air seemed to shift, heavy with shock and sudden respect. She stood taller now, every inch the authority figure they had been ignoring moments before. Security protocol requires you to respect chain of command, she said, voice calm but firm. You are under my supervision now. The lead guard swallowed hard, fumbling with the binder. Admiral, she raised a hand, stopping him. Save your explanations. You will review your procedures, and you will brief me on why an undercover officer of my rank could have been treated like a common intruder. Immediately, outside the room, radios crackled as other personnel received the alert. The person they had nearly humiliated was not just anyone, she was the highest-ranking officer in the entire operation. The guards moved aside instinctively, a mix of awe and fear in their eyes. She walked past them without haste, every step deliberate. The flickering light seemed to brighten in her wake, revealing not just the authority of rank, but the unshakable presence of someone who had spent decades commanding respect in the most dangerous arenas imaginable. As she exited the room, she glanced back at the security team. Remember this lesson, she said quietly. Not all that seems small is powerless. And not all that seems compliant is weak. The room stayed silent long after she left, the guards' earlier confidence shattered, replaced with the stark, humbling truth. They had just witnessed a Navy SEAL Admiral, and they had almost made the gravest mistake of their careers.